My husband had an affair while I had postpartum depression and made me take care of our son all by myself. Now he's acting like it never happened and calling me a cold-hearted gold digger. When my husband, 29M, and I, 27F, decided to have a child, I thought we had a happy marriage and a financially stable future. My pregnancy was high risk, and with the health complications, I was going to end up using a good chunk of my medical leave before our baby was born. So, together, we decided that I'd quit my job and be a stay-at-home mom for a few years and then go back into the workforce. After our son was born, I had postpartum depression and severe anxiety. I had complications in recovery, and there was no help from family on either side. I'm low contact with my family, and my mother-in-law had passed away, with my father-in-law having no interest in helping. My husband expected me to be a full-time housewife as soon as we got home with the baby, and stopped helping with anything home or baby-related because it was my job now. I was lucky to get involved with a mom's group that helped me a lot because otherwise, I was very lonely and stressed. When our son was 10 months old, I discovered some messages on my husband's phone indicating that he was having an affair. I don't know when it started, but a lot of his late-night work sessions were because of that. At that time, my mental health was not good, and I became scared that he would divorce me and take my baby. My reaction wasn't even anger at him. It was as if my love for him had disappeared and was replaced by abject fear. I didn't confront him, and he didn't realize that I knew. I ignored it and tried to deal with all my issues myself while living in constant fear of getting kicked out without my son. I know that wasn't a reasonable assumption, and I have rights, but I can't explain why my head was stuck in that mode back then. I moved into my son's room, separating myself from my husband but continuing to be a good stay-at-home mom. The sad thing is that he didn't even have a reaction when I wasn't living in our room anymore. I provided him with home-cooked meals, maintained a clean house, and allowed him to play with our son whenever he was home, but he didn't care about me at all. When our son turned 2, I got a job and needed to enroll him in daycare. My husband opposed the idea because he liked how things were and wasn't willing to pay for it. Despite his opposition, I went ahead and got employed, and the majority of my paycheck goes to cover the daycare expenses. The rest is allocated for my car payment, with a very small portion reserved for savings. Over the last few weeks, my husband has been home more, acting depressed. I found out that his affair partner has dumped him, and now he's acting like the past 3 years were normal and wants intimacy and regular relations with me. I told him that our relationship was over when he stepped out of his marriage, and that he can go start a different affair if the first one didn't pan out. He got angry about that and accused me of being a cold-hearted gold digger. He put me through agony and hell, and I am here because I love my son and want to be with him every day, not 50% of the custody, so I am dealing with it. However, he believes he's the wrong party here. I have become accustomed to the situation, and I am okay with us living separately like roommates and raising our son. I don't care who he dates or loves or has relationships with. If things change down the line when my son is going to school and is less dependent on me, or if I fall in love with someone else, then yeah, I'd file for divorce, and if he wants to start the divorce first, that's okay too. I have consulted with a divorce lawyer already, and I know I'll get half of the equity in our house, half of his 401k, and either child support or shared expenses for our son's needs. Living in this house with our son is more convenient for me right now. He is arguing that because I didn't say anything when I found out about the affair, I have no right to bring it up now that it is over. My parents agree with him and say that since I chose to ignore the affair, it has no bearing on our relationship now. My husband wants to go into marriage counseling, but I don't see a point to that. The only 2 options acceptable to me are the status quo as it is now or divorce. If I divorce, the amount of child support I can get would help with utilities and expenses, but only partially towards rent. I'll still need a job to afford housing and half of daycare. I'd love to go back to school, but I am not able to fund it with a baby in tow. Would I be morally wrong if I stick around for another few years so I have 100% custody and also comfortable living while my baby is so little? Edit. I am making 60% of what I was earning before I quit my job. It was an office job in marketing, not very lucrative, but I had a career. I'm struggling to crawl back into the same place, and it will take time for me to compensate for the gap in my resume. With what I make now, I can't afford housing in a good school district. Update 1. We have been having non-stop arguments. I tried disengaging and gray rocking, but that didn't help. He swings between expressing love and being around all the time, to yelling and raging at me. I agreed to couples counseling with the goal of having a better co-parenting arrangement. He told the counselor he still wants the marriage to work out. We had some properly organized discussions, and we were both asked to lay out our resentments. Mine was the years-long affair, obviously. I don't think anything beyond that needs to be said, but of course, there's the neglect, the lack of help, the absence from home, and the fact that I have to pay for our son's daycare without any contribution from him. His list of resentments was a doozy. He says that I ruined his experience of becoming a father because I was difficult and neurotic. My painful pregnancy and medical complications were unnecessary drama to him. When we agreed that I'd be a stay-at-home mom until our son started school, he was envisioning a picture-perfect home with a beautiful wife and child who catered to his every need. He's upset that the reality was nothing like that and is convinced that I tricked him. He's a selfish idiot, but he was also encouraged and enabled by people around him who talked this up, including my parents. I've always known that my parents didn't love me much, but I have come to realize that they resent me and look down on me. The first year of our son's life, he was a bit sickly, so he was clingy to me, and my husband resents me for that too. Now that our son's a healthy toddler who can run around and throw a ball, he's more interested in engaging with him. The entire thing was a pretty painful exercise for me, and I restarted my own individual therapy. I had made myself numb to his actions and was ignoring issues to focus on my son, but my husband did a good job of opening up all the scabs. I learned a lot more than I wanted to about his affair partner too. Now that I am physically recovered, lost a lot of weight, ironically from the stress of it all, and look well put together, I'm good enough to be his partner again. Anyway, I filed for divorce. I think it'll take a year and then some for it to go through, but I'll stay here and not move out until we sell the house and divide assets.
Relationships can be challenging. Imagine a marriage where your partner gives you the cold shoulder, provides no emotional support, and even has an affair. Even without the cheating, feeling invisible and unvalued in your own home is a serious issue. It's unfair to expect your partner to save a relationship they've already checked out of.
My best friend is getting married in 4 weeks but just told me she loves me more than her fiancé and hopes I feel the same way. My friend, let's call her Bree, 35F, just told me she loves me 4 weeks before her wedding, and I, 35M, am not sure if I'm doing the right thing. Something to note about myself is that I lost my wife 2 years ago and I have a 5-year-old daughter. I have not dated in the last 2 years because I have major trauma from losing my wife. I still love her a lot and don't think I'm ready to move on. I invested all my time in my daughter, who looks exactly like her mother, and my work to keep my sanity for the last 2 years. As for Bree, we have been best friends since we were in elementary school, and we lived in the same neighborhood growing up. She is an awesome person, and we were inseparable as kids. The weirdest part was that we had completely different personalities. She was very outgoing and always had a lot of friends, while I was a big introvert, and Bree, along with a few friends, was all I needed. Bree was a serial dater, and I don't remember any time since middle school when she was single. Bree and I never dated though. When college came around, we also went to the same place. She never had a stable boyfriend but just jumped from one relationship to another. I, on the other hand, did not date seriously until I was in my junior year. When I met my wife, she was a freshman, and we hit it off instantly. We fell for each other and spent all our time together. This strained my relationship with Bree, as I would generally hang out with my wife instead of her, and that was the time we slowly started drifting apart. After college, I moved to a different town for my job, and Bree and I occasionally messaged each other, but nothing beyond that. She attended my wedding, and that was the last time I saw her. We kept in touch, but mostly by commenting on each other's pictures or keeping each other updated on significant life events. She did reach out to me when my wife passed away, and we talked for a bit on the phone. Last year, Bree and her fiancé, let's call him Jason, 33M, moved to my city. I was still grieving, and both have been amazing support for me and my daughter. My daughter loves dancing, and Bree helped me enroll her in dancing and gymnastics classes and sometimes takes her to them. I also became good friends with her fiancé, who is indeed an incredibly good man. My daughter also loves Auntie Bree, and Bree sometimes helps me babysit. Last week, Bree came to my house and asked if we could talk. Her tone sounded serious. She told me that over the last few months, she feels like she has started to develop feelings for me and is not sure anymore if she wants to go ahead with the wedding, and she felt I also had started developing feelings for her. I told her that I was not ready for any kind of relationship before getting my mental health in check, which I'm regularly seeing a therapist for, and she tried to convince me that she loved me, we are soulmates, and she felt that we were meant to be together. Despite that, I just do not have the same feelings for her. I love her as a friend, but nothing beyond that. We were both emotional, but she said she was glad we talked about this, and she left after that. She called me that night and told me not to talk to anyone about our conversation. I thought a lot about it, and I decided that I would not tell Jason, as I feel it's their relationship, and I do not have the right to ruin their moment if Bree decides to go ahead with a wedding, but I feel guilty that her fiancé does not know anything about this and is going into a marriage where Bree might not be fully ready for it. It's been eating at me. Am I wrong for not telling her fiancé about our conversation? Update 1. Thank you everyone who commented on my previous post, it really helped me think about the situation thoroughly. The guilt was weighing on me heavily, and I finally called Bree after a few days and asked her to meet me for lunch. I talked to her and asked her if she was going ahead with her wedding. She broke down and told me she was not sure. I told her that she should at least talk to Jason regarding her feelings and not be dishonest with him. I also assured her that I would not say anything to Jason, but I just wanted her to be happy. She said she understood and left. That night, I put my daughter to sleep and was watching TV. Around 9:30 p.m., I heard a loud knock on my door, and it was Jason. I opened the door, and he was in tears. He started yelling at me and asking me why I had to steal Bree out of all the people. I tried to calm him down, but he just kept on shouting. I told him my daughter was sleeping upstairs, but he slowly was getting more and more physical. He ended up socking me in the face, but I was able to push him off the porch, and he left to get in his truck and drove away. I immediately called Bree, and she was crying and did not sound well on the phone. She told me that she could not marry Jason because of her feelings for me, and I was scared for her after what just happened with Jason, so I told her to gather some clothes and get out of the house. She did that and came to my place, and I consoled her for almost 2 hours before she fell asleep. The next morning, we had to call her parents to let them know about what had happened. Bree kept a brave face, but I could see how much she was hurting. Her parents asked her to take a few days off and immediately come back home, and she did take a flight in the evening to go home. Over the next 2 weeks, the wedding was called off. Bree and I were talking every day, and she was just very exhausted. She talked to Jason a few times, and he kept on asking her to take more time to think, but I think Bree just wanted to get out of it and decided to break it off with Jason. Currently, Bree has been staying with us for the last 2 weeks. She still has a job here and started going back to work last week. I have talked to her in detail about what happened, and Bree told me that she and Jason had been dating on and off for the last 4 years. Jason is not very career-oriented, and Bree is very good at her job. She felt he was a nice and reliable person but was unsure about him from the start. She felt that she was not getting any younger, and hence they decided to get married. When she heard about my wife passing away, she just felt really bad and wanted to be around me to comfort me. When she got her big promotion, which meant she could work in a corporate office, she immediately chose my city and moved here. Jason also moved here and got a new job. She never had any romantic feelings for me back then, but as she started hanging out with my daughter and me, she started feeling the bond we shared when we were growing up. Except, I was the broken one, and she was taking care of me. She said that she realized that she was enjoying her time with us more than with Jason, and she realized she made a mistake with Jason, that what she wanted was right in front of her. Hence, she slowly started thinking about me in that way and finally told me about it. She knew her relationship with Jason was over the moment she confessed to me. It's a crappy situation, but I am glad that she realized that before getting married versus after. As for Jason, I feel bad for him. He is moving back to our hometown closer to his family. He is currently in their apartment and will move sometime next month. I know many of you would be curious if we were dating, and we are not dating. I don't think I can date anyone right now, and neither should Bree. She is my friend, and I am happy that she is staying with us and plans to be here until everything is sorted out. My daughter loves having Auntie Bree around too, so that's a bonus. Plus, it's really nice to see her slowly getting back to normal. Thanks again for helping me during my last post.
I don't even think she's actually in love with him necessarily. He said she developed feelings for him because she enjoyed spending time with him more than her fiancé, but to me, that feels like she just didn't like her fiancé as much, and she's confused, not thinking of her fiancé as a romantic partner and assuming that means that she must feel romantically for Op. Her fiancé also went as far to assault the man, despite he not being at fault. No one can steal their partner. They're an adult and make their own choices. During that time, she was also taking care of Oop through his issues, so I think taking care of him gave a sense of intimacy. She saw him at his most vulnerable. She needs to find a safe place that is not with Oop. The both of them need to get professional help. Her to resolve the issues stemming from her fiancé's violence, and he to help with his trauma of losing his wife. I worry that they are going to enmesh themselves in a codependent relationship where neither are happy